let's flip a coin. Head Carolina, tails California.
Hello, it's Andy Graham of the Ask Andy Show. I'm traveled nonstop for 16 plus years and went to 90 countries. Next week I go to Europe. I fly into Oslo, then go down to Croatia and wander around southeastern Europe. September 2014. Okay, I answer questions about the global world. Ronnie M. asked, "Hey Andy, my name is Ronnie from North Carolina. You said Canada is 1% and Europe is like 5% different than the U.S. So I said Canada is 1% different than the United States and Europe is like 5% different. How would you compare the differences between Mexico and Ecuador, Colombia and Argentina?" Great question. What we're getting in here is we're getting it's going to be tough to compare these things because Mexico and Ecuador, I would say Mexico and Ecuador are about 15–20% different. Not a lot. They both speak the same language. Ecuador's got more of the Castilian, and Mexico's got more of this hillbillies Spanish. The difference in the cultures is that one is more pure and the other one is more a conglomeration. Mexico is a very big country, so you got a lot of areas, and each state is like its own little country in a way. And on the other side is that what we don't ever want to talk about is that there's different animals on the planet, and each animal, if you have 10 different dogs, one's going to be an aggressive dog and another one's going to be a passive dog. The big difference between Ecuador and Mexico is that Mexico is an aggressive dog and Ecuador is a passive dog. It's our basic genetic makeup that we're not all the same. So it's a much more calm breed of animal, human in Ecuador, and they're much more peaceful in a way. While Mexico, if you look at the history, there's just a lot of violence. Now, you know, you can also say the nature-nurture thing, and there's a lot of the conquistadors really raped Mexico. So they were like land pirates that taught. The culture was like started by a bunch of pirates, and it just bled down. Well, Ecuador is, you know, basically left alone. Colombia and Argentina. I mean, they're really just moderately different. I'd only say they're like 5% different. Both kind of the same kind of cultures. Both were settled by the Europeans at kind of the same time in a way, and both became economic powerhouses. Cartagena in Colombia was a very big port for all the pirates and the, you know, anybody coming, because it was like a great harbor, and they came in there and they basically were always fighting over Cartagena. And what I do, Colombia is a very intelligent country. I would say in some ways, you know, Argentina is not, you know, they basically got some loose screws that they're always trying to be European, and they're always trying to raise their prices, and they're always trying to, you know, in the middle, they were having debates with England or something. In the middle of the debates, they attacked England. Attacking England is economic suicide. Argentina did this. This is crazy. This is a recent history, right? Grenada or something like that. And constantly, Argentina is having problems socially and stuff, while Colombia is really you know, this narco-trafficker thing is a region of Colombia. It's not the whole country. There's a lot more blacks in, I think, in Colombia, and so you're really, you know, each breed of animal that's in a country changes because I believe we're animals. Each breed of animal changes the thing, and this is a big difference. It really, they don't have the television. See, when I say it's 15% difference, it's because they're not watching the same television. Television is the thing that makes America and Canada the same. They're watching the exact same television. Everything they're programmed and taught to buy, whatever, makes us the same. Europe dresses different, but they basically are watching the same kind of television in a lot of ways. These are very good Colombia. A lot of what's interesting is a lot of the slang, like barbaro in Argentina and Colombia says chevere, is the same. They basically talk the same. In Mexico and Ecuador, they also have some of the same thing. Like in Ecuador, they say mandi, which means what, and in Mexico, they say what. So you pick two really interesting countries because the language defines the culture. Are they radically different? No, they're not radically different. But you know, money-wise, they're different. I mean, Mexico and Ecuador, you know, Mexico is a lot more expensive than Ecuador. So, but that's a different thing. That's not a cultural thing. That's more or less a monetary thing. All of these countries in Latin America, they have some real problems with their leaders, and their leaders are wankers. They're really bad people sometimes. And I haven't really been in any of these countries from Mexico on down to Chile that have good leaders. They really, for the most part, are always kind of a very self-centered, selfish leader that is trying to rape their countries. They're stealing their money, and they're doing all these things. They're more like a mafia leader. And on the other side it's about the leadership. The leadership makes for a more homogeneous thing. Each one of these countries could become radically different in some ways if the leader changes. You can see that the economies of all these things are always, all the countries in Latino countries from Mexico on down to Chile can be taken over by a military coup within less than 3 months. I don't see any of them as being stable more than thing. I really would, everybody's got to be careful with these countries. Their military, their presidents and the people that run the countries just are not that good of people. They are not morally, ethically good people. They act just like pirates. Just like I said, they were conquered by conquistadors, and these guys were just land pirates, and they have that mentality. If they can grab it and take it, they do. But are they radically different? 5 to 10% different. They're not really radically different. But try to study the language of each of these countries, and you'll find commonalities. Because Mexico will say Monday, Ecuador will say Monday. Some of the slang in Ecuador and Colombia and Argentina are the same. And I suppose if we did a bunch of research, we could figure out where, what type of person settled it and where they came from, and which commonalities of the settlement. Because it all comes from the country that colonized it down and the people that colonized it down, whether it was a Jesuit, Catholic priest or whatever, these Jesuit, all these different Catholicism, there's different levels of this too, and how much they influenced the culture, and how much there was things that the Europeans wanted from that country. Good question, very difficult question. Thank you.
We can pack up tomorrow.